The name the FBI has been desperately searching for might not be hiding in the shadows of the Catalina foothills. It might already be sitting inside a locked prison cell. That is not just an internet conspiracy theory. That is the professional, hard-earned assessment of a retired NYPD sergeant who used to command the Bronx Cold Case Squad, and the reason he believes this could fundamentally change how this entire case gets solved. Starting right now, it is day 67 of this absolute nightmare. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for more than 2 months, yet no suspect has been publicly named, and no arrest has been made. The family has put up an astonishing $1.2 million in reward money, and despite that life-changing sum, not a single useful tip has come in. Instead, bizarre ransom notes keep flooding into the inbox of TMZ, contradicting themselves entirely, demanding Bitcoin, claiming she is dead, and then miraculously claiming she was seen alive. The FBI isn't buying any of it, and while everyone is distracted by those notes, a retired detective just pointed to the exact place where the real answer might be hiding. It is not in an inbox, and it is not on a tip line. It is inside a prison cell. Joe Giacalone is a retired NYPD sergeant, but he wasn't just any sergeant. He was the commanding officer of the legendary Bronx Cold Case Squad, and he ran the NYPD Homicide School. He received the Department Medal of Valor, spending more than 20 years solving the kinds of brutal, impossible cases that everyone else had given up on. He is now a professor at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and the author of a textbook that the state of New Jersey literally requires for police promotional exams. When a man with a resume built on solving the unsolvable talks about how cases actually get cracked, you listen, and what he just said about the Nancy Guthrie case stopped me in my tracks, because nobody else in the mainstream media is talking about this. Giacalone stated that the tip that finally breaks this case wide open will not come from a witness standing on a sidewalk. It won't come from a contradictory ransom note sent to TMZ, and it won't come from a neighbor who suddenly remembers a vague detail from 2 months ago. It will come from inside a prison. It will come from someone who is already locked up, someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose, because the information about who took Nancy Guthrie is what Giacalone calls a get-out-of-jail-free card. Think about the leverage of what that actually means. Right now, somewhere within a 100-mile radius of Tucson, there are people sitting in jail cells who know things. These are people who run in the exact same dark circles as whoever pulled off this highly coordinated kidnapping. They are people who heard a whisper, people who were told a secret, or people who actively helped move something or someone, and now they are locked up for a completely unrelated crime. Every single one of them is carrying a piece of information that could cut years off their sentence. The name of whoever took Nancy Guthrie is worth far more than money to these people. It is worth freedom. Yet for someone staring at a decade behind bars, freedom is the one thing that no amount of reward money can compete with. $1.2 million means absolutely nothing when you cannot leave your 6x9 cell to spend it. But a reduced sentence, a facility transfer, or an early release, that changes everything. Giacalone laid out exactly how this aggressive strategy should work, and it is far more proactive than anything we've heard from law enforcement so far. He argued that investigators need to interrogate every single person arrested within 100 miles of the crime scene, not just the usual suspects connected to the case, and not just the people who perfectly match a criminal profile. Everyone, every arrest, every booking, every intake. In his decades of experience, the person who cracks a massive case like this is rarely the mastermind you'd expect. It is the low-level guy who got arrested for a robbery or a drug charge. It is someone sitting in a holding cell during their first week, when the reality of prison sets in, when they are terrified, and when they are most willing to trade what they know for a way out. Furthermore, Giacalone recommended that investigators bring in the DEA. Why? Because Tucson sits just 70 miles from the Mexican border, and we already know that one of those ransom notes specifically claimed Nancy was taken to Sonora, Mexico. Whether that specific note is real or just noise, the sheer proximity to the border means federal agencies with powerful cross-border reach need to be at the table immediately. Giacalone is calling for an international cold case task force, not just the FBI, not just local detectives, but a unified front. And then he said something that hits incredibly hard. There comes a point where you have to go out, shake the trees, and aggressively create your own leads. The FBI cannot just sit in an office and wait for someone to call the tip line. They cannot keep relying on DNA results that haven't yielded any public progress. They cannot keep forwarding TMZ emails to a database and hoping something magically sticks. They have to physically walk into those cells. They have to sit across the table from desperate people who have nothing to lose, ask the right, piercing questions, and give those people a compelling reason to talk. Right now, reduced sentence is the most powerful weapon they have, more powerful than $1.2 million, because money only works on the outside. Inside a cell, freedom is the only currency that actually matters. If you have been following this case closely from the very beginning, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next major break in this investigation could drop at any moment. De Giacalone also had a blunt assessment regarding those TMZ ransom notes, and he didn't hold back. He stated, "I took the ransom stuff with a grain of salt from the very beginning, because it was unlike anything we've ever seen before in history." Real professional kidnappers contact the victim's family directly. They do not send Bitcoin demands through an entertainment media outlet. They do not write to TMZ, and they certainly do not contradict their own demands from one note to the next. Everything about those notes, in Giacalone's professional assessment, is a calculated distraction. It is noise generated by someone trying to profit from a family's worst nightmare, allowing the real perpetrators to stay hidden. But here is the part of this story that genuinely stopped me cold. Because while Giacalone was talking about shaking trees in prison cells, another expert was pointing to a location much closer to Nancy's home, closer than anyone ever expected. Bob Krieger is a retired Pima County SWAT commander who retired just weeks before Nancy disappeared. He spent his entire career working high-stakes cases in this exact jurisdiction. He knows the terrain, the streets, and precisely how criminals operate in the Catalina foothills. His chilling theory is that a vacant house located right near Nancy's home wasn't just sitting empty, it was being actively used. Krieger told Parade magazine that the vacant property could have served as a home base or a staging location for the suspects. It was the perfect place to watch, to wait, and to meticulously study Nancy's daily routine without a single neighbor noticing. Think about what that means in practice. While the FBI was out processing DNA and tracing digital Bitcoin wallets, the suspects may have had a literal front-row seat to everything. A house sits empty in a wealthy, quiet neighborhood. No one checks on it, no one locks it up properly, and someone moves in quietly in the dead of night. Not to live there, but to watch and to plan. Krieger emphasized that a location like that, completely out of the prying eyes of the neighborhood, could be used to set up advanced surveillance equipment, cameras, listening devices, recording equipment. Anything could be stashed on that property without anyone ever knowing. And here is the terrifying detail that connects all these threads together. A neighbor, Usa Aldine Meister, explicitly told investigators that she wanted them to check that specific house. She raised the concern because she saw something that didn't feel right. We already know she saw a strange man walking the neighborhood 2 weeks before Nancy vanished, a man who simply didn't fit in, a man she believes was one of the kidnappers. When you put all of these pieces together, the picture is horrifying. 3 reconnaissance visits to Nancy's home in January. A highly illegal Wi-Fi jammer deployed to disable every security camera on the street. Back doors propped open from the inside. A masked suspect caught on a surviving doorbell camera carrying a full backpack. And right next door, a vacant house serving as the ultimate command center for the entire operation. This wasn't an opportunistic burglar who got lucky on a random night. This was ruthlessly methodical. Someone set up camp next door, watched Nancy come and go, learned exactly when she was alone, learned when her lights went off, and memorized which doors were left unlocked. They waited patiently for the perfect moment, and the house next door provided them with the time and the cover they needed. And now, 67 days later, the people who executed this flawless plan are still out there. Or, as Giacalone suggests, maybe some of them aren't. Maybe the getaway driver, or the guy who supplied the Wi-Fi jammer, already got picked up for a robbery, a drug charge, or a simple parole violation. And now, they are sitting in an 8x10 cell with a secret that is worth more than anything they have ever carried. The name, the face, A critical detail that someone let slip in a conversation they thought nobody was listening to. That is exactly where Giacalone says the answer lies, not in a TMZ inbox, and not in a digital Bitcoin wallet. It is in a cell, just waiting for a federal agent to walk in and ask the right question. The question I keep thinking about as we hit day 67 is this. If someone behind bars right now holds the name that finally ends this case, how long will it take until they decide their freedom is worth far more than their silence? Because a $1.2 million reward didn't make anyone on the outside talk, but the promise of a reduced sentence just might make someone on the inside break. And that is a very different kind of leverage, the exact kind of leverage that has solved cold cases before, and the kind Giacalone has seen work firsthand. Tell me in the comments what you think. Is the definitive answer locked inside a prison cell right now, or is it hidden in the walls of that empty house next door? And if you missed the crucial video breaking down the note that claimed Nancy was dead and the glaring contradictions the FBI found inside it, click right here. That video is absolutely critical for understanding what is really happening behind the scenes in this investigation right now.